The sun beat down relentlessly on the arid plains of the United States, specifically in the sprawling, untamed wilderness of Montana. Dust devils danced in the distance, mirroring the restless energy of the lone lion cub, barely old enough to walk steadily. His name, chosen later by the man who found him, would be Koda. Koda's tiny roars were more like pained squeaks. He was alone, his mother gone, likely a victim of the harsh, unforgiving landscape or a territorial dispute. Dehydration was setting in, and his fur, once a vibrant golden, was dull and matted. His small body trembled with weakness. The vast, silent expanse of the plains seemed to mock his helplessness. A storm was brewing on the horizon, dark clouds gathering, promising a downpour that could either be his salvation or his demise. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of dry earth and approaching rain. Miles away, Ethan Cole, a wildlife conservationist with a weathered face and eyes that held a quiet understanding of the wild, was on routine patrol. He dedicated his life to protecting the fragile ecosystems of Montana, often venturing deep into territories where few dared to tread. Ethan was a man of few words, his actions speaking volumes about his deep respect for nature. He moved with a practiced ease through the sparse brush, his gaze sharp, constantly scanning the environment. Suddenly, a faint, almost imperceptible sound caught his attention, a whimpering that was barely audible above the rising wind. He stopped, his senses heightened, and slowly, cautiously, followed the sound. His heart sank as he saw the tiny cub, collapsed beside a sun-baked rock, barely clinging to life. It was a sight he knew well, one that always brought a pang of sorrow to his soul. Ethan knew the risks of interfering with wildlife, especially a lion cub. But this wasn't about interference, it was about survival. He carefully approached, speaking in a low, soothing voice, assessing the cub's desperate state. The cub barely reacted, its eyes glazed over. With gentle, practiced movements, Ethan carefully scooped up the frail creature, its weight almost non-existent in his arms. The cub was barely conscious, a tiny bundle of bone and matted fur. He raced back to his secluded cabin, a rustic haven nestled deep within the wilderness. The rain began to fall in heavy drops, turning the dry earth into a slick, muddy track. Inside, under the soft glow of a lantern, Ethan worked tirelessly. He administered fluids, cleaned the cub's wounds, and wrapped him in warm blankets. He spent the night by the cub's side, monitoring his shallow breaths, the rhythmic sound of the rain against the cabin roof, a backdrop to their quiet vigil. Days turned into weeks. Koda, as Ethan named him, slowly began to recover. His tiny roars grew stronger, his steps more confident. Ethan fed him, played with him, and taught him the basics of survival, all while knowing that one day Koda would need to return to the wild. He learned Koda's unique purr, the way his ears twitched when he was curious, the fierce, playful glint in his eyes. Their bond grew, forged in shared moments of vulnerability and trust. Ethan often watched Koda from a distance, observing his instincts developing, preparing him for the day he would need to let him go. The thought of it was bittersweet. When Koda was strong enough, a year later, a majestic young lion, powerful and self-sufficient, Ethan knew it was time. With a heavy heart, he led Koda to the edge of the vast savanna, a place where other lion prides roamed, a place Koda could truly call home. Koda paused, looking back at Ethan with eyes that held a depth of understanding beyond his years. Then, with a final, lingering glance, he turned and disappeared into the tall grass, a silent, powerful presence, becoming one with the wild. Ethan watched until the last flicker of golden fur vanished, a single tear tracing a path down his weathered cheek. He whispered, "Be free, Koda." The silence that followed felt immense, yet he knew he had done what was right. Enjoyed the first chapter? Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the rest of this emotional story. Remember, this is a dramatized fictional story. 12 years passed. The Montana plains, though vast and seemingly unchanging, bore the subtle marks of time. Ethan Cole, now with more silver in his hair and deeper lines etched around his eyes, continued his work. He'd seen countless sunrises paint the sky, witnessed seasons change, and dedicated himself to preserving the wild beauty around him. The memory of Koda, however, remained a vivid imprint on his heart, a powerful bond that time couldn't erase. He often wondered if Koda was still out there, thriving in the wilderness he'd returned him to. The wildlife reserve where Ethan worked faced a growing challenge, an increasing number of human encroachments on lion territories. As human populations expanded, conflicts between humans and wildlife became more frequent, leading to dangerous situations for both. A specific pride of lions, known for their elusive nature, and often seen in the northern sector of the reserve, had become increasingly bold, venturing closer to the fringes of human habitation. This pride was a magnificent sight, led by a particularly large, powerful male with a distinctive scar above his left eye, a battle mark, a testament to his dominance. One scorching summer afternoon, a distress call came in. A small group of hikers had inadvertently wandered into a restricted area, directly into the path of the very pride Ethan had been monitoring. They were trapped, surrounded by the lions, panic evident in their frantic voices over the radio. The sun was merciless, the air thick and still, amplifying the tension. The hikers' fear was palpable, almost a physical presence that stretched across the miles. Ethan felt a cold knot in his stomach. This was a grave situation, requiring immediate and careful intervention. Ethan, along with a small team of experienced rangers, raced to the location. The terrain was rugged, making their progress slow. As they approached, the sound of agitated roars echoed through the canyons, a terrifying symphony of warning. The lions, unsettled by the human presence, were becoming more aggressive, their powerful bodies tensing, their low growls a constant threat. The air was charged with fear and the raw power of the wild. He spotted the hikers, huddled together, their faces pale with terror. The massive male lion, the one with the scar, stood between them and any escape, his amber eyes fixed on the intruders. His presence commanded respect and fear. Ethan knew he had to act fast, but without escalating the situation further. Every move had to be calculated, every breath held. He noticed the lion's immense size, its powerful build, and something in its gaze that seemed eerily familiar, though he couldn't quite place it amidst the chaos. The scar, a faint white line above the left eye, seemed to pulse with a hidden story. Ethan, renowned for his calm demeanor even in the face of danger, stepped forward, his team providing cover. He spoke in a low, steady voice, not to the hikers, but to the lions, a technique he'd honed over decades. He began to slowly, deliberately move between the hikers and the pride, his movements fluid and non-threatening. The lead lion watched him intently, a low growl rumbling in his chest, a sound that vibrated through the ground. The air was thick with the scent of dust and the primal musk of the wild. The other lions in the pride remained tense, their eyes fixed on Ethan. Suddenly, the lead lion took a step forward, a menacing rumble escaping his throat. Ethan stood his ground, his gaze unwavering, his heart pounding a steady rhythm. The lion was close enough now that Ethan could see the intricate patterns in his fur, the intensity of his eyes. There was a moment of profound silence, broken only by the rapid breathing of the terrified hikers. Then something extraordinary happened. The lion, instead of attacking, paused. His head tilted slightly, and his eyes, filled with an ancient wisdom, seemed to soften. A flicker of recognition, faint but undeniable, passed between man and beast. It was in the way the lion held his gaze, in the subtle shift of his posture. The powerful, scarred male, for a fleeting second, seemed to remember. The tension in the air, which had been suffocating, began to subtly dissipate. The other lions, sensing a shift in their leader, also seemed to calm slightly, their growls subsiding to low rumbles. Ethan felt an inexplicable warmth spread through him, a feeling that defied logic. Could it be, after all these years? The air still crackled with raw power, but a new, almost imperceptible current of understanding had begun to flow. The air, thick with the scent of dry earth and the primal musk of the lions, hung heavy around them. The massive lion, the one with the distinctive scar, continued to hold Ethan's gaze. The tension was still palpable, but now, mixed with something else, a fragile curiosity, a hint of something familiar. Ethan, still speaking in a low, soothing voice, slowly extended his hand, palm open, a gesture of peace and trust. He knew the risk, but an instinct, deep and powerful, guided him. He focused on the lion's eyes, searching for that flicker of memory, that spark of connection. The lion responded. Instead of a roar or an aggressive charge, he took another step forward, lowering his head slightly. His eyes, amber and ancient, seemed to look not at a threat, but at an echo from the past. A low rumble, different from a growl, resonated from his chest. A sound Ethan remembered, a sound that sent shivers down his spine. It was a sound he'd heard countless times, 12 years ago, when a tiny cub would purr against his hand. Then, with an almost unbelievable gentleness, the colossal lion nudged his head against Ethan's outstretched hand. The rough texture of his mane brushed against Ethan's skin, a sensation that sent a wave of emotion through him. It was unmistakably Koda, the scar, the intensity in his eyes, the almost imperceptible tilt of his head. It all coalesced into a profound realization. This magnificent creature, now the king of his pride, was the same tiny, fragile cub Ethan had saved so many years ago. The reunion was silent, powerful, a testament to a bond that transcended species and time. The hikers, initially frozen in terror, watched in stunned silence. Their fear slowly gave way to awe as they witnessed the extraordinary interaction. The other lions in the pride, sensing the shift in their leader's demeanor, remained calm, observing the scene with a quiet intensity. The storm on the horizon had dissipated, leaving behind a sky of soft, fading light, as if nature itself was holding its breath to witness this moment. The setting sun cast long shadows across the plains, painting the scene in hues of orange and gold. After what felt like an eternity, Koda slowly pulled back, but not before rubbing his head against Ethan's leg one last time, a gesture of deep affection. Then, with a commanding look, he turned and led his pride away, disappearing into the twilight, their powerful forms blending seamlessly with the darkening landscape. The silent departure was as impactful as their arrival. The plains, once filled with tension, were now imbued with a sense of wonder. Ethan stood there for a long moment, the warmth of Koda's touch still lingering on his hand. He looked at the awestruck hikers, their faces still pale but now etched with disbelief and profound respect. He finally broke the silence, his voice hoarse with emotion. "He remembered," he whispered, a smile slowly spreading across his face. The encounter had a profound impact. News of the lion whisperer and the unbelievable reunion spread, inspiring a renewed understanding of the intricate bonds between humans and nature. The incident highlighted the importance of conservation, reminding everyone that these magnificent creatures, though wild, are capable of incredible depth and connection. Ethan continued his work, but now with a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that the legacy of Koda, the lion he saved, was a living testament to the power of compassion and the enduring magic of the wild. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the plains into darkness, but a new light of understanding had dawned. If this incredible story of Koda and Ethan touched you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more narratives like this. Remember, this is a dramatized fictional story,